Hello and welcome back to the show. Today I've been joined by Yana Mir. She needs absolutely no introduction. She is a journalist, she is a political commentator as well as a social activist. Not only we come from the same state or union territory, she is also the first woman panelist on my show, which makes it all the more special. Welcome Yana. How are you?
Thank you so much, Sonam, for having me on your show. I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Okay, याना एज यू नो अभी हमारे मुल्क में बहुत ज़्यादा डिबेट चल रही है यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड पे। आइडियली तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए,
Hmm.
बट एज यूजुअल हम देख रहे हैं कि जो मुस्लिम पॉलिटिशियंस हैं दे आर ट्राइंग टू गिव एन इम्प्रेशन कि ये कोई इस तरह का लॉ है जिसमें मुसलमानों को या तो अपनी रिलीजियस आइडेंटिटी चुननी पड़ेगी या तो फिर वो अपने राइट्स चुन लें। यही चीज़ हमने देखी थी जब
Hmm.
सीए का टाइम था, इवन दो इट डिड नॉट इम्पैक्ट इंडियन मुस्लिम्स इन एनी वे। फिर हमने देखा कि जो
Hmm.
जुवेनाइल डेलिक्वेंसी लॉ में जो अमेंडमेंट आई और जो जुवेनाइल जस्टिस एक्ट जो 2015 में आया और फिर इट केम इनटू फोर्स इन 2016, जिसके अंतर्गत बेसिकली जो 16 से 18 ईयर ओल्ड्स हैं उनको भी इफ इट्स अ
Hmm.
हीनस क्राइम दे विल बी ट्राइड एज अडल्ट्स। उस टाइम पर भी हमने देखा इवन दो दिस लॉ वाज बेसिकली एप्लीकेबल टू एवरीबडी, बट द मुस्लिम पॉलिटिशियंस ट्राइड टू गिव एन इम्प्रेशन कि इससे कोई जो मुसलमान बच्चे हैं, यंग लड़के who could be in conflict with law in some way, they are being targeted. How do you see this, and why is this happening again and again?
Hmm. How do I see it? I mean, you might feel bad if I tell you how I see it. It's a kind of like graphic. I mean, how I see it is that the Muslim political wing of India is turning into something like, like, I don't know what are the right words to use, but they seem to be turning into the devil's advocate. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Um, every criminal who's a Muslim is looked upon as a Muslim first and then a criminal. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So his crime is being completely forgotten. But the fact that he's a Muslim is being highlighted just so that it can be proved that India is a Hindu national country and there is some kind of majoritarianism going on in India that is a threat to Muslims living in India. So every time devil's advocacy, you know, you can imagine this whole UCC thing. It even sprung up. Why? Because the rights of a Muslim woman uh, were to be protected. Those who are standing for in favor of the UCC, uh, what are they trying to fight for? The rights of Muslim women, actually. Because you see, whatever reforms had to be brought about in the Hindu community were already brought about when the constitution was set at that time itself. In fact, many years ago, in fact, even the Britishers helped us to get rid of some really regressive laws like sati, and all of them were abolished during the British days only. And the Hindus were okay, okay, fine, they rebelled a bit and all that, but then today they're fine with it. They know that reform was necessary. The majority of the Hindus knew that reforms were necessary in their culture, in their community, and in their religion, and they allowed it to happen because it was for the better good of humanity. It was for the better good of their women abolishing sati. It was for the better good of the lower caste abolishing caste system. So they went with it. They realized that okay, reform is needed. If we need to be more ethical citizens, reform is needed. Everybody needs to be treated equally, whether it's women or lower caste. Hindus went on with it, but Muslims, and I'm not talking about all Muslims, I'm talking about those who are politicizing Islam at every given step, weaponizing Islam and trying to, use it as a tool against communal harmony and against, for example, the BJP government, just to put a tag on the government that they are majoritarian, they're fascist, they're anti-Muslim. But they don't realize that in an attempt to do this, they're giving a bad name to Islam. It's kind of looking like they don't want Muslim women to be safe and happy. It all started because of the Shah Banu case. A Muslim woman had to be given rights just because 40 years later her husband decides that I've had enough of her. Now I can just say talaq 3 times and dump her. I don't have to pay alimony anymore. That's not ethical. It isn't ethical. Okay, and our country doesn't allow that. Okay, and because Shah Banu is an Indian citizen, And there are many Muslim women like her who are Indian citizens and they don't deserve to be treated like that. So, as a Muslim woman, I would always stand in favor of the UCC because I know that I have to gain from it. I don't think you or Hindu guys or even Muslim guys have much to gain from it, but I have to gain from it. So, I will always stand in favor of it as a Muslim woman. Yeah.
Sure, Yana, but basically, UCC is a law which aims to enforce a uniform legal framework in respect of all facets for all Indian citizens, irrespective of their religion, right? इतना आसान क्यों है मुसलमानों को बरगलाना? You know, आप you will not see this sentiment to be so prevalent within the Hindu community कि किसी ने एक आवाज दी और आप भेड़ चाल में उनके पीछे चल पड़े. इतना क्यों आसान है कि आप मुसलमानों को
Hmm.
बरगला सकते हैं इस्लाम के नाम पे? मतलब आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट Islam gets politicized every now and then, and especially in this part of the world, जहाँ पे शायद
Hmm.
लोगों की अपनी इनसिक्योरिटीज हैं जो पाकिस्तान बनने के बाद भी नहीं एड्रेस हो पाई. मैं तो बार बार कहती हूँ कि पाकिस्तान उन्हीं इंडियन मुस्लिम्स ने
Hmm.
बनाया था जिनकी इनसिक्योरिटीज थी, राइट? ऐसा नहीं है कि
Hmm.
आज वो वहाँ पे कोई बहुत ज़्यादा खुश हैं. बावजूद इतने बैड एक्सपीरियंसेस के और इस तरह के एक्सपेरिमेंट्स फेल होने के बावजूद, फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ यू लुक एट पाकिस्तान एज अ कंट्री टुडे, जो उस टाइम पे लोगों ने जो आइडिएट किया होगा या जो उनके दिमाग में परसेप्शन होगी कि एक ऐसा मुल्क बनेगा जहाँ पे सब कुछ पाक होगा और सबके लिए इंसाफ होगा, इट्स फार फ्रॉम बीइंग दैट, राइट? इसके बावजूद
Hmm.
आपको क्यों ये चीज नजर नहीं आती कि इंडिया में जो मुस्लिम्स हैं वो इस चीज को समझें और वो समझें कि उनको यूज किया जा रहा है, बाय द वेरी पीपल हु क्लेम टू रिप्रेजेंट देम. मैं तो ये भी नहीं बोलूंगी कि वो उनको रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, क्योंकि अगर रिप्रेजेंट करते तो फिर उनको अपलिफ्ट भी करते ना. व्हाई इज इट सो
देखिए
इजी
आपके
टू लाइक
लिए
मिसलीड देम?
हाँ, आई टेल यू, आपके लिए आसान है बोलना कि हिंदू हर्ड मेंटालिटी में नहीं चले जाते, उनके कान के कच्चे नहीं है, दैट्स व्हाट यू ट्राइंग टू से, राइट? वो इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि हिंदूज में क्या होता है, रिलीजन कैसे सीखते हो आप लोग? आपके घर में कोई प्यारी सी दादी माँ होती है, वो लड्डू बनाते बनाते, लड्डू खिलाते खिलाते आपको रामायण और महाभारत की कथाएं सुनाती है, दैट्स हाउ यू लर्न योर रिलीजन एट होम. हमारे यहाँ पे क्या होता है, लड़कों को बाकायदा भेजा जाता है मदरसों में, माँ बाप ये सोच के भेजते हैं कि कुरान पढ़ लेंगे, ठीक है ना? दरसगाह भेजा जाता है, कुरान खानी में भेजा जाता है, ये कुरान पढ़ लेंगे. लेकिन वहां पे बातें होती है पॉलिटिक्स की, मेजोरिटी ऑफ देम वहां पे बातें होती हैं कि कैसे आप हिंदू, बहुत सारी जगहों पे ऐसी बातें होती हैं, हर जगह नहीं लेकिन बहुत सारी 90% में ऐसी बातें होती. आई वॉज लकी कि जो मौलवी साहब मुझे, जिन्होंने, मौलाना साहब ने कुरान पढ़ाया, ही वॉज वेरी क्लियर कि बेटा आप इसको पढ़ो. एंड उन्होंने मेरे लिए कुरान कौन सी लाई थी, एंड आई वॉज 7 or 8 years old एट दैट टाइम. लिखा था अरबी में, नीचे इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन, नॉट ट्रांसलिटरेशन, नॉट इंटरप्रिटेशन बाय सही अल बुखारी और दिस वन एंड दैट वन, नो, लिटरल वर्ड टू वर्ड ट्रांसलेशन लिखा था नीचे इंग्लिश में. उन्होंने मुझे इस तरह सिखाया. He said, I want you to be a momina. Even if you're not a hafiza, it's okay. But be a momina, a true momina, a true Muslim who knows what the Quran is actually trying to say. What was the word of God that was revealed to Prophet Muhammad? You need to know that. Not what most of the clerics who were actually political patrons are trying to say. No, I want you to just know your religion. So ऐसे बहुत कम मौलानाज होते हैं जिनके अंडर मैंने पढ़ा है. He was like this. He was a secular. He wanted to advocate the true spirit of Islam. Uh, but 90% are not like him. So even आप देखोगे पहले क्या होता था, इवन खुतबे में जब जाते थे, वो खुतबे में क्या होना चाहिए, मतलब नमाज के बाद जब वहां का जो आप यही की बात कर लीजिए जामिया मस्जिद में, फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी हैव मिरवेज उमर फारूक. ओके, सो आफ्टर द फ्राइडे प्रेयर्स खुतबे में क्या बातें होनी चाहिए कि भाई आप लोगों को क्या दलीलें हैं, लेट्स ट्राई टू सॉल्व इट टुगेदर. इज समबडी, मतलब कोई कोई गुर्बत में सफर हो रहा है, चलिए हम सब साथ में मिलकर इसको हेल्प करते हैं, लेट्स ट्राई टू गेट हिम आउट ऑफ हिज डेब्ट्स, लेट्स ट्राई टू हेल्प हिम विद हिज लोन्स. ओके, हिज child is injured, let's all try to pay for his medication, let's for his treatment, let's do this, let's do that, let's help this family, they lost their earning. ऐसी ऐसी बातें होनी चाहिए, दैट इज फॉर द अपलिफ्टमेंट ऑफ द सोसाइटी. बट यहाँ पे क्या बातें होती है, हिंदुस्तान की गवर्नमेंट ने ये किया, हिंदुस्तान की गवर्नमेंट ने वो किया, ऐसे हुआ, हमारे साथ जुल्म हुआ, ये हुआ, फलाना ढिमकाना. आप ये सारी चीजें आपको मस्जिद में करनी चाहिए? आर यू सपोज टू पूरे कुरान में पॉलिटिक्स ही नहीं है, तो आप ये सब बातें क्यों करते हो? लोगों को बरगलाते हैं, लोग बरगलाए जाते हैं इस वजह से। वो बेचारे वहां पे इबादत करने जाते हैं, जैसे उनकी नमाजें खत्म होती, खुतबे में ये सारी बातें शुरू हो जाती हैं। व्हाट आर दे गोइंग टू डू? दे आर गोइंग दैट दिस इज द वे ऑफ गॉड। सो ये जो रिलीजियस क्लेरिक्स हैं, इन पे बैन लगनी चाहिए, और इन पे बहुत सारी मुस्लिम कंट्रीज में बैन लग भी रही है। डू यू थिंक अ बरेलवी, दियोबंदी इज ऑल अलाउड इन सऊदी अरेबिया? नो। लुक एट इजिप्ट। इजिप्ट में इख्वानुल मोमिनीन बंद हो रहा है, बंद हो गया, बैंड। और उसी का विंग जमात इस्लामी को बैन करने के लिए 10 टाइम सोचा जा रहा है। क्यों सोचा जा रहा है? अच्छा, बैन हो गया फाइनली इंडिया में, लेकिन सिर्फ 5 साल के लिए, उसमें शायद अभी 1 साल बचा है। अब आई डोंट नो व्हाट्स गोना हैपन नेक्स्ट when they are banning such organizations in Islamic countries, because they know the danger that these kind of cleric organizations pose to the society and to the coming generations. So these Islamic governments are aware of it. Why do you think UAE is such a peaceful country? Why do you think Saudi Arabia is such a peaceful country? Because they ban such things. They don't allow these kind of clerical misinformation, religious clerical misinformation to spread like poison in, in the generation, in the youth. They don't allow that. But here, in the name of vote bank politics, it's all being allowed. And when you said, yeah, that is one of the biggest reasons कि बरगलाना इतना easy क्यों है, क्योंकि इसमें हिंदूज भी मिले हुए हैं। जब हिंदूज भी मिले हुए हैं फॉर देयर वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स, क्योंकि उनको बीजेपी को गिराना है ना किसी तरह से, तो कैसे गिराएंगे? बीजेपी को एंटी मुस्लिम दिखाओ, खुद प्रो मुस्लिम बन जाओ। लेकिन यू आर नॉट बीइंग प्रो मुस्लिम, यू आर बीइंग प्रो डेविल्स एडवोकेट। दैट इज व्हाट दे नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड।
ओके याना, जैसे ज़्यादातर इस्लामिक कंट्रीज में, और मैं बोलूँगी सारी इस्लामिक कंट्रीज में, देयर इज़ नो सेक्युलरिज्म. The Muslims are generally opposed to the idea of secularism whenever they are in a majority. और अगर हम यूएई की आपने एग्जांपल दी, यूएई में हम देखें तो ये सब जो हकूक इंडिया में मांगे जा रहे हैं इन द नेम ऑफ रिलीजियस फ्रीडम, ये तो आप मुसलमानों को वहाँ भी नहीं मिलते. जैसे आप यूएई में तो किसी हाउसिंग सोसाइटी के अंदर किसी के घर के बाहर बकरी ज़िबा नहीं कर सकते. आप लाउड
एब्सोल्युटली,
स्पीकर पे पूरा दिन प्रेयर नहीं कर सकते, है ना? यूएई में ये सब चीज़ें
या
आप बिल्कुल भी नहीं कर सकते. ये गुंडागर्दी वहाँ पे
या
नहीं चलती है. Why is that Muslims who are generally opposed to the idea of secularism wherever they are in majority? Because you said, the Quran is completely apolitical. Where do they learn this behavior from? कि जब आप नॉन मुस्लिम मेजोरिटीज में हैं तो आपको सेक्युलरिज्म अच्छा लगता है, और सेक्युलरिज्म का असल मतलब तो ये है ना, दैट स्टेट क्राफ्ट एंड रिलीजन stay like away from each other. There's no mixing of the two. बट
या
हम ऐसा देखते हैं कि मैं सिर्फ इंडिया की बात नहीं करूंगी, ग्लोबली अगर आप देखें, इन द नेम ऑफ इक्वालिटी द मुस्लिम्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड seem to be seeking preferential treatment, but they are
या
not ready to give the same treatment to non-Muslims. Uh, those non-Muslims who are living in Muslim majority countries. If the source is, like you said, not religious literature, then what exactly is the source of this?
you'll be shocked to know, yes, the source of it is Sharia, but Sharia itself is not mentioned in the Quran. Tell me, where is the word Sharia mentioned in the Quran? Nowhere. The word Sharia is not mentioned in the Quran. So it's all, say what you want. I have to be very careful what I say, you see, because even though we call ourselves a democracy, anything anyone says, uska sar tan se juda kar diya jata hai. And you know where I'm living also. So I have to be very careful in what I'm saying. But the fact is, there's no such word called Sharia. So basically, what they are doing is un-Islamic, but they're calling it Islamic. And they're forcing the whole Islamic world to follow it. I mean, why? So the real Muslims are no less victims of this entire gundagardi that's being done, of the man-made Islam that started 200 years after Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he passed away. 200 years after that, the man-made Islam which started after 200 years after his death. So a lot of genuine Muslims are also victims of that Islam. You call it Wahhabism or you call it whatever, but it's man-made. It's not what Almighty revealed. There's a big conflict within the Muslim world also about what to believe and what not to believe. But what every Muslim believes, the 5 pillars of Islam, which is there mentioned in the Quran, uh, a straightforward, liberal, sane, educated Muslim is also a victim of this kind of Wahhabism. that is forced upon us. Okay, as much as Hindus are, as much as Jews are, we are also victims of that. Because there are certain things that we don't accept. For example, we don't accept this. I don't personally accept that a woman can just be dumped after 40 years of marriage by saying talaq 3 times. I don't believe that, you know. But if I don't believe that, then I'm a Muslim, you know. Somebody who sold their soul to the Yahudis or converted into Hinduism, that sort of thing. So it's like, what do we do? It's like our religion has been hijacked by these Wahhabis. There's nothing much that we can do unless governments get together and do something
Hmm.
about it. So I think if the Indian government, considering that the largest number of Muslims in the world live in India, so I feel the Indian government has a duty towards real Muslims, the real Islam, that it should shut down all these clerical institutions. It should start the UCC, because anything, Allah always says anything, whatever is in favor of Allah's creatures, is Allah going to be against it? If because of UCC, a Shah Banu or anyone like her gets alimony and gets taken care of for the rest of her life after divorce, you think Allah is going to be, Almighty Allah is going to be against that? You think Allah will want that woman to suffer? I mean, when Allah created us, fine, it's our choice we choose to be Muslims or not. But when Allah created us, He created us in the same way. We all cry when we are babies. We all have red color blood. When Allah doesn't differentiate between us, then who are these people to say that we want preferential laws? As simple as that. But yes, you see, there's a big nexus behind this. Conflict entrepreneurship is something that they all earn from. Zakat ke naam pe, jihad ke naam pe zakat mangte hain har Ramzan pe. That's $1 billion industry. Even Kashmir jihad ke naam pe bahut sara zakat aaya karta tha. That's $1 billion. Where do you think all these stone pelters used to get their 500 rupees a day from in Kashmir? So the agencies like NIA have properly, put a leash on all this. So a lot of this, and then most of them, they just want to, they just say, oh, hum garam khoon wale, hum kaam nahi karenge, hum social security pe jiyenge. When they go to Europe and all, what? They're just living on social security. So the Europeans are so stupid. They bring them inside thinking that we'll get cheap labor. So they allow them to come on compassion basis as refugees because they think they'll become cheap labor for us. And what do? They just live off social security of the taxes of European nationals. And then later they start demanding Sharia over there. And then now those countries are like thinking, no, we are very compassionate. We have to give liberty. And if this is what they want in the name of liberty, they want laws which are regressive, then they're actually sitting and thinking that we should give them those laws. I mean, can you imagine? What does the world come to?
Yes. And like you mentioned, there are many Islamic countries which are now being very vocal on it. For example, MBS, he is very vocal on
Yes.
how reforms are really needed. And you would see while the Muslims in the war torn countries like Afghanistan or Syria, they must be celebrating this in their heart. हो सकता है वो बाहर ना बोल रहे हो बट अंदर से उनको खुशी हो रही होगी कि अरे कोई तो हमारी कम्युनिटी से है जो इन्फ्लुएंशियल है who has the power to bring about a change is talking about it. पर आप देखें जो मुसलमान जो सेक्युलर डेमोक्रेसीज में रहते हैं वो आज तो एमबीएस को भी बुरा भला कहने लग गए ना. पाकिस्तान में तो एमबीएस को लेके इतना ज्यादा प्रोपेगेंडा किया जा रहा है कि ही इज टर्निंग सऊदी अरेबिया इनटू अ नॉन मुस्लिम लैंड. Okay, to move on, Yana, you are somebody who's a voice of reason, and you generally talk about laws which bring in equality, and you advocate them. What are the challenges faced by somebody like you? At times, I'm sure you would have heard this also. कि आप तो सरकारी मुसलमान हैं, आप तो हो सकता है मुसलमान भी ना हो. How do you deal with this? Because you are only being true to your religion and your community, but when somebody labels you as a Sarkari Muslim or some agent, or they say कि आपका तो कोई vested interest है, how do you deal with that dilemma?
Yeah, so there is a lot more to it. So I get ostracized by family. There, people in the society, they troll me, they pick out something that I must have said in some public gathering, and then they twist it and they put it on media, see what kind of things she says. And then the Grand Mufti of Kashmir had also put it on his social media, given a statement. No, she doesn't say good things. A lot of it, like a lot of strategy was played up against me, but it didn't stop me. To be very honest, it didn't stop me. I keep doing it because I feel that I'm being true to Allah, and I feel that Allah is happy with me because I am showing Allah's religion for what it is, not them. So I know that I'm on the right track, and Allah is with me. If and then I also, when you say, "Now, how do you deal with it?" Same thing. Even I would like to ask these Pakistanis who think that they are very, perfect moments. How do you deal with Allah's wrath, Allah's azab, Allah's keher, when every year you have some natural disaster, and then you go begging to United Nations for money every year? How do you deal with it? That Allah doesn't seem to like you. Your people get capsized in a boat on the way to Europe. I mean, I'm not happy about it, but how do you deal with it that Allah doesn't like you? I can deal with it that some people don't like you, but how do you deal with it that Allah doesn't like you? This is my question to them. Yeah.
Well, I would say it's not just the Pakistanis. I would say, jitna mera experience raha, I've somehow seen more honest Pakistanis than some of the ideological Pakistanis who are still living in India. कुछ उस तरफ मैंने देखा है, कुछ लोगों में
Mhm.
ज़्यादा clarity और understanding है. I would say कि बहुत सारे इंडिया में भी होंगे जो आपको इस तरह
भूख
के नाम देते होंगे.
भूख 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 और गुर्बत से वो समझदार बन गए, उनको पता है where their country is
हम्म,
headed. They learned. वो
हम्म,
अल्लाह की लाठी है ना, अल्लाह की लाठी में देर है अंधेर नहीं है, वही चीज है. They learned. Allah gave them a
हम्म,
lot of chances,
हम्म, हम्म.
but
Okay,
they don't seem to be learning, you know. So
sure.
yeah.
Okay, so what really keeps you motivated? Like you said, you get ostracized by sometimes even your own people. Okay, I understand you're able to deal with it. You are motivated about it. You feel you are true to Allah, and that's all matters. But what really keeps you going? Is it just this feeling that you are being true to God? Is that what brings you closer to reality and the true path?
No, it's also because I feel that the more I speak, the more I might inspire others to speak. I mean, other Muslims, especially Muslim women, because there are a lot of them who are dealing, who are like, struggling with this, with a radical society, and they have nowhere to escape. So I hope that I would be giving them an inspiration, and also I see that the more of us that speak up against this, the more secure we can keep our country and its coming generations. Because for vote bank politics, those who are being devil's advocates right now, maybe they're not foreseeing the future like I'm seeing it. I don't want India to be like, especially Kashmir. The reason I spoke out so much because I did not want Kashmir to be an Afghanistan. Did you know that there used to be like threatening posts coming out on social media, coming out on Facebook, saying that अगर अगले मंडे तक कोई भी लड़की अगर दिखी रास्तों पे, जिसने अबाया नहीं लगाया, मैं हिजाब की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, अबाया की बात कर रहे हैं, तो अच्छा नहीं होगा, फिर मत बोलना, हम आपको अल्लाह की राह पे ले जा रहे हैं, तो आप सब हमारी बहनें हो, इसीलिए हम आपको अल्लाह की राह दिखा रहे हैं, हर कोई अबाया में होना चाहिए अगले मंडे तक. यार इस तरह की पोस्ट आती थी. People used to get scared. I don't want whoever wears hijab should do it out of choice, like I'm doing right now. I don't do it all the time. I do it अगर अभी मैंने नमाज पढ़ के उठी हूँ, या घर पे कोई बुजुर्ग आ गए, या हम कहीं चले गए ऐसी जगह पे, to a place like a shrine or something, to a spiritual place. That's the only time. So people should have that. Women should have that freedom. Especially when I say people, I mean women. So the radical religion, which I will not call Islam, is a threat to women more than to anyone else. So you see, अगर मैंने नहीं बोला, मेरा भाई क्यों बोलेगा, या मेरा बाप क्यों बोलेगा, या मेरा हमसाया क्यों बोलेगा? क्योंकि उनका क्या जाएगा अगर कश्मीर अफगानिस्तान बन जाएगा, उनका क्या जाएगा? उनका तो कुछ नहीं जाएगा. जाएगा किसका? अब बाया में किसको बैठना पड़ेगा? पढ़ाई लिखाई किसको छोड़नी पड़ेगी? नौकरी कौन नहीं कर पाएगा? इट विल बी मी. चाइल्ड मैरिज किसकी होगी? इट विल बी गर्ल्स लाइक मी. ओके, सो हमें ही बोलना है ना. We have to make the world a safe place for our future generations, and we can only do that by talking, and that is the reason I talk. Yeah.
Sure. Yana, I'm pretty much done, but this is my last question, or you could consider this to be your concluding remark. Is there a message you want to give to young women out there, especially the young Muslim women who could be getting misled by those with, vested interest, or those who want to continue to play politics in the name of Islam while doing nothing for young Muslims who want a better life and better integration in the Indian society? Is there a message you would like to give them using this platform?
Yes, the message is that, you know, there is more fun in contributing to the world rather than in rebelling against the world. There's more fun in contributing. There's more fun in, you know, sharpening your talent than sharpening your sword. There is more fun in that. And especially the women, please understand that don't think that insecure men, you know, are doing you some a very big favor and showing you the path of Allah by telling you to be covered up, by telling you, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't wear nail polish. Allah doesn't care a damn about nail polish. Come on. Allah doesn't care. Allah is not so petty. He's God. For God's sake, the only way you can impress Allah, the only way you can impress God is by doing good deeds in this world which He has created. And all these personal things that you choose, what you choose to wear, what you choose to work as, these things don't bother Him. Don't bother Allah. As far as I know, your relationship with Allah should be spiritual. You should feel safe and happy when you think of Allah, not scared. You shouldn't be scared when you think of your Creator. You should feel happy. You should feel safe, loved. So don't let anyone uh, spoil that image of Allah in your eyes. Don't let anyone do that. And the guys have to understand that the kind of fun, the kind of kick there is in developing your career. You may be a good accountant, you may be a good cook, you may be a good hairdresser, you may be a good painter, you may be a good lawyer, you may be good in business. And or you may be good in sports. When you develop your talent, when you sharpen your talent, and when you show it to the world, when you contribute in nation building, in being a good citizen of the world, that's more fun rather than sitting and fighting and feeling bitter in the name of Palestine, feeling bitter in the name of Kashmir, feeling bitter in the name of Rohingyas, feeling bitter. That's not your battle to fight. Your battle is to survive in this world by legal means, ethical means, to provide for your family, to be a good husband, son, brother. That is your duty. And you can't, like, I mean, I think that's about it.
Sure. Thank you, Yana, for joining us today. It was lovely speaking to you. I would keep bothering you every now and then, as and when there's a current issue where I feel you could really talk about. Okay, that's all for today, viewers. Thank you. We will meet again. Bye for now. Take care, Yana.
Thank you so much.